The following is a production of Professor Robert Barnwell. Each episode includes insights provided by the chairman, CEOs, and CFOs of the world's most successful corporations, as well as thought leaders from premier business schools and international consultancies. If you and your team would like more information on corporate leadership and strategic management, or would like to learn more about Professor Barnwell, his research, and how he may be able to assist your company, please visit Professor Barnwell's website at robertgbarnwell.com.
Hello and welcome to CFO Talk Radio. I'm your host, Robert Barnwell. During the last episode, we spoke with Tom Copeland. Tom is one of the few people in the world with deep experience and top credentials as a practitioner as well as an academic in financial economics. He received his PhD from the University of Pennsylvania, his MBA from Wharton, and his undergraduate BA in economics from Johns Hopkins University. Tom's practitioner experience extends over a 31-year period, for 11 of which he was co-leader of McKinsey's global corporate finance practice, where he consulted with over 200 companies in 40 countries on topics as diverse as value-based management, mergers and acquisitions, capital structure and the cost of capital, hedging, restructuring, and turnarounds. Tom joined us to discuss expectations-based management, or EBM. This is episode 19, and we'll be speaking with Gary Kokens. Gary is a manager of global business advisory services involved with performance management solutions at SAS and is an internationally recognized expert on advanced cost management and performance improvement systems. Gary joins us to discuss some of the fundamental principles of activity-based costing and activity-based management. Gary, welcome to CFO Talk Radio.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You know, today we're talking about activity-based costing and activity-based management. And I think to best orient the listeners, can you maybe spend a few minutes to briefly explain maybe what ABC and ABM are all about, and perhaps what the payoffs are in terms of a well-designed and implemented ABM program?
Well, activity-based costing resolves some shortcomings with traditional cost allocations, which typically don't have what's called a cause and effect relationship. And I find that the best way to describe ABC to non-financial people is with a simple example. Imagine you go to a restaurant with three other friends, and you order a salad, and they each order the most expensive item on the menu and a glass of wine. And at the end, when the waiter or waitress brings the bill, the other three say, "Hey, let's split this check evenly." How do you feel? Well, you feel cheated. It's not equitable. Well, that is also how products and standard service lines in traditional standard cost accounting systems also feel. When the accountants take this large amount of indirect and shared expense, commonly called overhead, and allocate it on these broad averages, like headcount or number of units produced or direct labor input hours and so forth, it just does not reflect the unique consumption that those individual products or services consumed of the various processes and the activities that belong to them. So I find the simplest definition is it's as if the waiter or waitress brings for individual checks. You pay for what you consume. And the implication is when you have these broad-brushed allocations, that means some of the products are overcosted and the others must be undercosted because it's a zero-sum error game. That means that managers and users of the information are being given flawed and misleading information. Now, why is this relevant? Well, part of it is because over the last 30, 40 years, the relative amount of indirect and shared expenses to direct has really been shifting. It's the indirect has really been displacing the direct, and some think, well, that's because of automation or machines, but it really has to do with over the years, most organizations have had an expanding proliferation of different products, lines, more colors, more sizes, more ranges, and the like. And what this is causing is complexity, and complexity just causes the need for more of the indirect. Now, briefly on your ABC versus ABM, there is confusion, but I'll really simplify it. ABC is just the math. That's just basically the translating of expenses from a general ledger through the activities, and they eventually pile up into the outputs, the products, services, channels, or customers. What ABM is when a person looks at that information, they get an aha moment or an insight, and they apply it. So it's not too complicated. In terms of the payoffs, your last question, they're pretty basic. They give you more accuracy. They give visibility on that common word transparency, because individuals can now see the individual drivers of the costs. And probably most importantly, they just generate questions. I think that's really the general purpose for management accounting. It's really to just generate better questions and then also have the ability to possibly answer them.
Well, when I first entered consulting, and I guess it was maybe the mid to late 1990s, and I was working at Deloitte Consulting, I'd say not only Deloitte, but practically every large consultancy was working, to either put together or they'd already put together an activities-based costing and management group in response to the really significant demand of their corporate clients. And I'm wondering, in hindsight, what was the relative success of these early ABC programs from the late maybe 1980s and 1990s? And then as we look back, how do you feel that ABM and ABC have evolved since that time?
Well, ABC did come out of the chute pretty successful. That was in the 1980s, and I think through my bio, I was fortunate to have been participating during that period. But then it began to stumble, and part of the problem was the models that were being created were way over-designed and over-engineered beyond diminishing returns on extra accuracy for the extra level of effort of work. And part of the problem, quite frankly, was the accountants. The accountants love precision and detail, and they didn't quite realize that costing is really modeling. You're actually modeling these resources through activities, and eventually you trace them, not allocate them, to the final cost objects, a fancy word for products, service lines, channels, and customers. So we didn't have, if you will, right-sized models, and therefore they became difficult to maintain. And sometimes the projects would end, and people would say, well, ABC doesn't work. It's like, well, no, it works. It's just the implementation method was inappropriate. We'll talk about that later. Another stumbling point was some of the executives introduced ABC not sort of as a positive experience to better understand the organization's economics, but created fear, like, well, why do they want to measure costs? Is my job at risk? And there were also some other complications. There was this assumption that we had to have timesheets to collect everybody's effort, by day, by hour. And of course, most employees hate timesheets. They're appropriate under certain conditions, but not necessarily for ABC. And then also some of the issue was people thought they could do ABC using a general ledger, and quite frankly, the ledger is strictly just a collection point. The data is not structured in a way that you can actually translate it into the language of work, typically verb-noun grammar, like process, invoice, and then further trace it with activity drivers into the outputs. I always like to say when managers receive that cost center statement from the general ledger, they're either happy or they're sad, but they're rarely any smarter. But there were successes, and there have been successes, and it continues to grow. The adoption rate for ABC is a little slower than I would be liking. We can talk about that later. But some of the successes are in product rationalization, when organizations much better understand where they make money and where they lose money and by how much. They can think more clearly. Increasingly, they're moving below the gross margin line to channel and customer profitability. I think we should touch on that a little later. And then it also supports decisions like a make versus buy decision or an outsourcing decision, because without ABC, you can't really basically quantify, well, what if we outsource, what costs really stay and which costs really go away. So there's many uses. The output of an ABC calculation model is always the input to something else, and there's just hundreds of types of decisions that can use cost information.
All right. Well, you mentioned there was quite a bit of evolution from the beginning to today in terms of how the information is gathered and how it's used. So, as a senior executive, and I don't know either as the CFO, COO, or CEO, What types of information and capabilities is reasonable for me to expect from my activities-based management and my ABC system? And how should I go about integrating or reflecting this information into my broader corporate or business strategies?
Well, first, we need to distinguish. There's really sort of two types of ABC systems. There are what I refer to as an operational ABC, which is really restricted to a department or a process. And then there is the strategic ABC, which is enterprise-wide. Let's first talk about the first one. Operational ABC is primarily used for, if you will, productivity, cost management, and cost reduction, and the like. And it focuses primarily on the output costs of a department. And it also gives some insights as to what the activity drivers are. So examples, which would be like in hospitals, their whole diagnosis-related group that's increasingly being calculated. In Europe, even much more so, where there's more socialized medicine. Public sector actually is an adopter of ABC because they look at unit costs. For example, in a department of highway, they may look at, well, what's actually the cost per mile of highway? And of course, there'll be substantial differences between urban and rural, and get some sense of not only why are they different, but what can we do to basically reduce those costs. Also, in operational, there are what are called attributes. These are tags or scores that you can paste onto the activities. They're like the color of money. So value added or non-value added, or in the cost of quality, prevention, appraisal, internal failure techniques. And the lean management community increasingly adopts these because they're basically doing what's called value stream mapping, and they're looking at how to take out waste. The strategic ABC, though, I really think is really the dominant purpose for ABC, and that's really to understand the margins, and not only by product, but also below the gross margin line, including channel and customer-related cost. The shock that organizations receive, though, when they do an ABC and rank order, if you will, their most profitable products to their least or even unprofitable products, is really a substantial, if you will, difference. They may make, 4 times as much of their P&L profit on 3/4 of their most profitable products, and then they'll lose a whole bunch on the remaining to basically net out. And so the point, though, is it's not that they should drop the products that are unprofitable or drop the customers that are unprofitable. It's just that they've now got a starting point to basically ask better questions. They don't get this with their traditional standard cost allocations. They don't get that diversity and variation. I always say with the facts, without the facts, anybody's opinion is a good one. I'll repeat that. Without the facts, anybody's opinion is a good one. But usually the biggest opinion wins, which is the opinion of your boss or the boss of your boss. So to the degree they're making decisions on flawed or misleading, information, or maybe even politics, quite frankly, the organization's a bit at risk. Now, you asked that the final question was about integration. I think integration is really the context. I mean, cost is not the center of the universe. I'm an industrial engineer by education, and clearly, time, quality, service level, all of these things, have to be integrated. But it's certainly more of a robust analysis when you have the cost information included. I did mention about going below the gross margin line. This is really taking off now because increasingly almost all customers are viewing suppliers as commodities. And what that means is a supplier cannot really get a competitive edge if their product's edge is really being neutralized. So what they're looking for, quite frankly, suppliers, is what are the differentiated types of services or offerings or deals to different types of customers. And this is really a big deal, especially in the telecoms and the banks, the financial institutions, especially in the B2C. But quite frankly, even in the B2C, meaning business to consumer, but even in the business to business, customer profitability is a big deal.
Now, I'm assuming that there's a number of listeners right now that may not have an ABM system, and they're saying, this sounds interesting, it sounds important. I certainly want my decisions to be factually based rather than just a deep feeling I have in my gut. And for these For these leaders, whether they lead a large business or a large corporation with several businesses, what types of questions should these leaders be asking themselves as they start along the path to establishing their first ABM initiative? And then perhaps what questions should the leadership of a company with an established ABM program ask themselves that may be similar or different in terms of improving their existing program?
Well, for the organizations that are just getting started, the first question actually is an answer that the executives really need to provide is to determine what is going to be the primary purpose of this information. Is this about, cost reduction and productivity, or is this much more strategic about really knowing, hey, where do we make money? Where do we lose money? What really are the margins? The advice I always give to new starters is begin with a rapid prototyping methodology with iterative remodeling. Do not do a 6 or 9 month long-term project and build this monstrous model and then kind of pull the curtain and show it to everybody. It's just too overwhelming. The value of rapid prototyping, and it can even start with just having 4 or 5 cross-functional employees in a room for just a couple of days, is to build that very first, what's called the cost assignment network. Its purpose is not to have data that's of any use. It's just to start familiarizing them with how ABC works. You have to adjust your thinking. It's not a process flow chart. It doesn't, go end to end across time. It's reassigning these expenses from the resources of the ledger through the activities and ultimately into the cost objects. And the real value of this sort of start small, think big approach is you get accelerated learning, because after that prototype is made, there's a behavioral technique. You bring in a few other work colleagues and you have these people present it to them, and people start getting the idea of how the tracing and the cause and effect principles are working. And also, by the 3rd or 4th iteration, quite frankly, you start getting what's called diminishing returns on extra accuracy for the extra level of effort of work. In other words, it's like this asymptotic curve where the vertical axis is accuracy up to 100% and the horizontal is the level of administrative effort to collect, calculate, and validate and report the data. And that curve goes up the slope quite quickly. So you can basically declare victory once you've got just a reasonable model. You don't have to have 3,000 activities in it. We have this phrase: it is better to be approximately correct than precisely inaccurate. In other words, it's better to be roughly right than exactly wrong. And so when you're at 99%, that's pretty much good enough for most managers to basically start using the information. I would also say for the new people, it's really much more about a communication plan than an implementation plan. You both had, those are 2 types of plans one must have, but getting the buy-in, getting people to understand how they would use the information. In fact, another benefit of these rapid prototyping review sessions is you can ask the attendees who come in that imagine that this is larger, more complete, more accurate when we're done. What one use of that information, would you use? And everybody internalizes it. The order entry people think about pricing and margin analysis. The operations people think about productivity. The strategists start thinking about product and customer rationalization. It's really quite an effective technique. For the existing ABM users and ABC users, I would say that start thinking really about integration. I always like to say, hitch that ABC to a different wagon, to another wagon. And one of them would definitely be scorecards, dashboards, key performance indicators, and the like, because that output can be used as those performance indicators over time. You can see trending, you can see changes and the like. I would also encourage the existing users, streamline and automate your models. Don't make the maintenance so big and complex. And also, you can use estimates in ABC. It's good to have fact-based information for sort of the vital few drivers and the like, but it's okay to have people estimate percentage splits. Remember, everything normalizes to 100% when you're tracing these costs. And you're already starting off with perfect information from the general ledger. You will get the exact, to the penny or euro of the expenses. That's pretty much my suggestion for the existing people.
All right, well, let's move into the implementation of a new program. And I guess, in fact, this question probably applies equally to those who are looking to improve or significantly revamp their existing programs. And I know you've touched upon this on a couple of our questions already, but what are some of the common challenges and hurdles encountered in establishing a successful ABM program? And what do you suggest for us in terms of best mitigating or overcoming some of these challenges?
Well, I think I've sort of addressed for the newcomers, the people that are just starting, what are really some of the challenges. It's really, to get the buy-in. But what I'm going to say really applies, I think, to everyone. I always say there's three questions that always need to be answered, and they are what, so what, and then what. And one of the problems is once an organization successfully completes and builds an ABC model, and they're done, they declare victory and they feel, wow, we did it. We actually were able to really reassign our expenses in a much better way, different than that flawed, broad-brushed allocation system. But now you're not done, because now all you know is what do things cost. You may know where do we make money, where do we lose money. But what you don't know is the so what, which is, where do we look? Where do we focus? What actions do we take? And that requires a lot more competency and experience in analyzing the various outputs. And the then what is almost as interesting a question, because the then what is, how do we validate decisions we might make? What if we were to drop this product line or add this product line or change this process or go for a different market, introduce a different segment of customers, get rid of one? And that comes to really the predictive view using the ABC data, not for what I kind of crudely call the cost autopsy. We spent the money, where did it go? It answers that question. But it's really the predictive view, which is if we make decisions, what will be the impact? And I think I should touch on that right now. That really involves predictive costing, and that means we have to move into the classifying of the behavior of resources as being sunk or fixed or semi-fixed or semi-variable. And this really moves us into, I would almost call it managerial economics, not just managerial accounting, because it's almost an engineering view. I am an industrial engineer. I think like that. Most managers know that in the future decisions that not all costs are going to go away. They know they've got sunk costs. They know they got fixed costs. They know that maybe depreciation on a machine really might not be relevant to a decision because the capacity was already committed to when we bought the thing. And so this movement towards the predictive view, the marginal, incremental expenses, is really, I think, the next area of competencies for accountants to move on to. I'll also add another thing that existing and eventually the new customers can evolve to, which is start embedding analytics into the actual models. My employer is SAS. Some people may not be familiar. SAS is the world's largest privately owned software vendor, over 12,000 employees, 35 years old. We don't do any transactional processing like from a payroll or purchasing system or ERP. We convert data into information. And we, in our ABC software, of course we have ABC software, we embed correlation analysis into the software. So, for example, when I mentioned about rank ordering, let's say, customers from your most profitable customers to your least, you may want to look at the most profitable customers and ask, well, what different factors differentiate a very profitable customer from a least profitable customer? And, of course, an analyst could guess, well, maybe it's the zip code they live in, or maybe if it's male or female, or maybe if it's they're older versus younger. And you can guess all you want. But with correlation analysis, you can pretty much throw the computer at it and basically say, you tell me. The technique is called recursive partitioning with decision trees, not to become overly statistical here. And so the computer is actually saying, here's the number one factor that differentiates a highly profitable from less profitable. Maybe it's transaction volume. Maybe it's the number of times they ordered. Who knows? You let the computer figure it out. It's really, I think, the next wave is the embedding of analytics not only into activity-based costing, but into almost all the performance management methodology suites, including strategy maps and scorecards, KPIs, and rolling financial forecasts, and the like.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And a number of our episodes, not only at CFO Talk Radio, but CEO Talk Radio, have been dedicated to competing by analytics. So you're certainly not you're not preaching to the unconverted here. That's for sure. So, Gary, at the risk of stating the obvious, ABC and ABM are really huge topics. And I think, in fact, you've written, half a dozen or more books on the subject. So in light of that, before we let you go, what parting advice or suggestions would you like to share that maybe you've not had the opportunity to discuss quite yet?
Well, it is a huge topic, and there's a long list of additional things. One I just mentioned about the predictive analytics. An extension of that is rolling financial forecasts, increasingly beginning to replace the budget. The budget, this fixed 12 months is obsolete fairly quickly, and so you do need the ABC consumption rates calibrated in past periods to multiply times the estimated forecast volume. So rolling financial forecasts is one point I'd like to add. Also, there's been a little bit of press on this technique called time-driven ABC as being revolutionary. I'd just like to sort of at least state my position. It's not revolutionary. What time-driven ABC is just an alternative technique for activity drivers to trace activities to cost objects. You can use time, but you can use units. It's appropriate under some special conditions where it's a highly repetitive process, like maybe a credit card processing, where there's interest in there's interest in unused capacity, but typically most managers manage unused capacity by site, and typically it's in an environment, the condition where there isn't a whole lot of indirect and shared expenses. The other concern I guess I would like to add is back to this adoption rate. Technology is no longer the barrier that is slowing the adoption rate of ABC. The technologies, the software, the modeling tools, they're all proven. The real impediments right now, quite frankly, is the thinking. And it's the assumptions one makes when modeling. And it's really social and cultural. And we're going to have to get better at change management. Of course, none of us were trained in change management, which is a bit disturbing. But we're going to have to figure out how to get more buy-in. And then one last point is there really is a big difference between financial accounting and managerial accounting. And I think financial accounting is just getting way too much disproportionate emphasis. Sarbanes-Oxley and GAAP and regulatory reporting, SEC and all that stuff. I think I basically define financial accounting as valuation. But managerial accounting is really about creating value, and you're going to basically model differently than complying with rules on inventory costing and capitalization. And we've got to start shifting that emphasis away from financial accounting and more towards managerial accounting. And there's actually quite a few groups in the Institute of Management Accountants, task forces. I'm also on one with the American Association of Accountants Management Accounting section with faculty that are suggesting reforms to accounting classes to shift that emphasis. I guess in closing, I just believe that 20, 30 years from now, activity-based costing will be as commonly accepted and used as standard costing is today. In the end, it's just a reflection mirror that shows how you burn through the resources of an organization, salary, supplies, telephone, all that, through the activities, the work that people and machines do, and ultimately piles them up into the products, channels, services, and customers. I just think it's inevitable that activity-based costing will be universally adopted.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Well, Gary, many thanks for joining us today, and I hope that perhaps you'll be able to join us maybe later in the new year.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Terrific. That was consultant and author Gary Kokens speaking with us about some of the fundamental principles of activity-based costing and activity-based management. Gary is a manager of global business advisory services involved with performance management solutions at SAS and is an internationally recognized expert on advanced cost management and performance improvement systems. Please join us for our next episode when we speak with Harvard Business School professor Robert Kaplan in the first of a two-part program on the Balanced Scorecard and the Balanced Scorecard as a strategy development and execution tool. Until then, this is Robert Barnwell and CFO Talk Radio wishing you all the best.
We hope that you have enjoyed this episode and found the material of value. To download a transcript of this episode, receive a free subscription to the show, or to learn more about this subject, we encourage you to visit Professor Barnwell's website at robertgbarnwell.com to explore the many executive briefings, presentations, case studies, and other resources available for immediate download. This has been a production of Robert G. Barnwell. All rights reserved.